audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Maricar Velasco, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. And now to the news. President Rodrigo R. Duterte is seriously considering cutting ties with Iceland after it sponsored a resolution that the United Nations Human Rights Council to look into the human rights situation in the country, including deaths in the campaign against illegal drugs. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said Duterte personally told him that he was contemplating on cutting ties with the Nordic island country. Panelo described the UNHRC resolution as grotesquely one-sided, outrageously narrow, and maliciously partisan. He adds it reeks of nauseating politics, completely devoid of respect for the sovereignty of the country. It is bereft of the gruesome realities of the drug menace in the country, according to Panelo. He said that the Iceland-sponsored resolution was based on false information and unverified facts and figures and only meant to embarrass the Philippines before the international community. Moreover, he stressed that the resolution smacks of politicization designed to force the Philippines to be subservient to their imagined superiority. Panelo said the resolution likewise demonstrates how the Western powers are scornful of sovereign exercise of protecting people from the scourge of prohibited drugs that threaten to destroy the fabric of society. Their intrusive abuse is patent and condemnable. Earlier, Panelo downplayed the impact brought about by cutting Philippine-Iceland ties, noting that it would barely affect Filipino workers there. He, however, said the government would consider all factors in deciding whether to proceed with cutting ties with Iceland for good.
Pag ang isang bansa ay nagpapahayag ng mga posisyon na makakasira sa ating kasarinlan o sovereignty, kailangan talagang putulin natin ang relasyon natin sa kanila. How will it affect us? Ano bang relasyon natin sa Iceland in the first place? Wala naman tayo. Wala tayong embassy doon. Walang sila rito. Gano'n makarami? Oh, well, pero alam mo, lahat yan, all of that are taken into consideration. Titingnan natin kung what is the best interest for the country we will pursue.
Senator Amy Marcos was the first to propose the severing of ties with Iceland, saying the developed countries cannot impose their agenda on other countries like the Philippines. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. warned that there will be consequences for countries that acted out of bad faith. For the first time, the Philippine government declared a national dengue alert after the health department noted an increase by 85% of cases so far this year compared to same period last year. Dengue cases from January 1 to June 29 this year spiked to 106,630 from last year's 57,564 cases for the same period. A nationwide dengue alert does not mean that it is already a national epidemic, since dengue cases monitored in the country so far were only localized and regional.
This is the first time that we're declaring a national alert because the objective is very clear. We want to raise awareness among the public and more importantly in communities where signs of early dengue increases are evident.
Kaya laging namin pinapanawagan, panahon ngayon, pag may lagnat yung bata ng 2 or 3 days, kailangan dalhin na agad sa center or sa hospital because we have a rapid test that can detect if it's dengue or not. Para malaman natin, and part yan ng mga dinidistribute ng program natin, yung NS1 tests, should be available in all of our hospitals and then the local government units para pag may lagnat, ma-detect natin agad kung dengue and then manage them properly.
World Health Organization country representative Dr. Gundo Wheeler said that the increase in dengue cases is not just happening in the Philippines but also in some other parts of the world. Wheeler said that countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore are also experiencing dengue outbreaks. Wheeler advised the public to brace for a severe dengue epidemic.
Dengue globally is a huge issue. More than half of the population, of the world's population, is living in areas where there's exposure to dengue. And there is an estimate that every year up to 400 million cases of dengue can occur globally around the world. So that's, of course, a staggering number.
An undersea earthquake with a magnitude of 6.1 struck south of the Indonesian tourist island of Bali on Tuesday, according to the European Earthquake Monitoring Agency, or EMSC. The quake's epicenter was 102 kilometers or 62 miles southwest of Denpasar in Bali and was 100 kilometers or 60 miles deep. There was no tsunami warning from the Hawaii-based Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. The U.S. Geological Survey recorded the quake with a preliminary magnitude of 5.7. Indonesia's Moluccas Islands have been hit by a series of aftershocks after a magnitude 7.2 earthquake killed at least 2 people last Sunday, prompting hundreds of people to flee their homes. The United States Geological Survey said Sunday's quake was centered 166 kilometers southeast of Ternate, the capital of North Maluku province, at a depth of just 10 kilometers. Shallow tremors tend to cause more damage than deeper ones. At least 10 people have died and thousands of shanty homes have been destroyed by monsoon rains in overcrowded Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh's southeast, officials said Sunday. Bangladesh's meteorological department said the Cox's Bazar district, home to nearly 1 million Rohingya Muslims who have fled a military crackdown in Myanmar, has seen at least 58.5 centimeters, nearly 2 feet of rain since July 2. An international organization for migration spokeswoman said heavy rains triggered mudslides in the refugee camps, which are mostly built on hill slopes, destroying some 4,889 tarpaulin and bamboo shacks in the first 2 weeks of July. More than 200 landslides have been reported since April in the camps built near the border with Myanmar, and at least 10 people were killed, a UN report said, adding nearly 50,000 people have been affected. In the last week alone, 2 Rohingya miners died and another 6,000 people were left without shelter because of heavy rains. The UN said the schooling of some 60,000 children had been interrupted, with over 750 learning centers partially damaged and 5 heavily damaged. A Thai garbage collector has been sentenced to death for the grisly rape and murder of a German tourist holidaying on a beach island. Ronacorn Romuruen was arrested in April, hours after the bloodied body of a 27-year-old German woman was found buried under dried leaves and rocks on the picturesque island of Koh Sit Tang in the Gulf of Thailand. A Thai court announced the verdict and sentenced the 24-year-old garbage collector to death on Wednesday. Ronacorn was under the influence of methamphetamines when he raped the victim, according to the court. When she attempted to escape, he used a rock to repeatedly batter her head and face. This caused severe wounds that led to her death, according to the statement made by the court. Ronacorn had pleaded guilty to all charges, including rape, murder, concealment of the body, and using methamphetamines. A popular tourist destination, Thailand is expected to receive upwards of 40 million visitors this year and is generally considered safe for travelers. However, several high-profile incidents have tarnished its reputation in recent years. In 2014, the battered bodies of 2 British backpackers were found on the dive resort island of Koh Tao. The following year, 2 Myanmar migrant workers who remain behind bars today were sentenced to death for the murders after a controversial investigation and trial that were criticized by observers. When we come back, our resident ASEAN resource person, Dr. Carlos Tabundan Jr., will interview noted political analyst Mr. Ramon Capisle about the current status of the push for federalism in the country. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes
It's basically in recognition of the difficulties of changing the constitution itself.
Okay, because
Remember, there's no need to go federalism.
yes,
On the question of charter change, meaning it's just one of the possible changes that can be made.
but he seems to have been exasperated by the attitude of at least the past Senate, wherein they said that federalism as a project will be dead on arrival in the Senate. So what can you say about this? And why does the Senate reject the federalism?
Well, I wouldn't say the Senate. I would say that there's no number in the last Congress in the Senate to get an immediate 18 votes.
Okay.
Which is the required votes.
Two-thirds of the Senate. Yeah.
The Constituent Assembly path is the one taken.
Okay.
But since there are also other alternatives, what we observe now is actually a new initiative. And a lot of this depends on the results of the last election.
Okay.
Where we have a 12-0 win by the administration candidates. But I myself has doubt that 18 can be.
Yeah, we can gather the 18
yeah.
votes. Okay, so how will it be if we don't get the 18 votes from the Senate?
Then there's the alternatives. One is a constitutional convention.
Okay.
The other is a refer back to the people in a referendum, meaning the Congress asks the people if they want to really change
This is not the People's
Constitution.
Initiative thing. No?
No, People's Initiative is already out
Okay.
because it's only for amendments. But a referendum is the one that basically decided on by the Constitution as an alternative to Congress making that decision.
Okay, but before the end of the last Congress, there was another version which passed the lower house. This was the one steered by the former Speaker of the House, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. What is this version? How different is this from the one done by the Constitutional Commission and in your group? The what's the other one?
Well, this is the group with the Center for Federalism and Constitutional Reform.
Okay, so how different?
That's the Secretariat of the Interagency Task Force.
Okay, so how different is this lower house version from the other versions?
Well, for one, you have to respect first that the House, of course, has its own and is empowered to do that. On the other hand, if you view it from the point of view of the federalism concept, there is a lot to be said that it is not the federalism. And definitely not the one that is being proposed by the executive.
Yeah, there was no news of them really deliberating on this version, and I just woke up one day and lo and behold, they have passed this this version already.
I myself saw it in 2016. It's still known as
So
the Gonzales version.
Okay.
Then it became the Veloso version.
So the same version, they just changed the authors, and then until it was finally adopted by GMA.
I think the main motive there is to make sure that they are part of the game, meaning they have their own proposal and so on, so they have to be brought into the process. But other than that, I don't.
What's the difference between? What's the major difference of the lower house version with the IATF version?
Well, the major difference is that it's Congress who decide when to go federal, not the Constitution itself.
And of course,
and
when you say Congress, the members of the Congress, the individual politicians.
My own conclusion is basically it's a unitary government hiding behind a federal, seemingly federal process. But it's not federal because a federal state or a federal setup is automatically there. That's why it's called Federal Constitution because the Constitution itself mandates it, not Congress.
How different is this push for federalism or charter change, if we may want to call it, from the other initiatives that were conducted in the past administration, starting from Ramos or President Aquino? How different is this one?
It's the same as the criticism against the version of the House, meaning those other initiatives always ends up with the question of extending the term of the elected officials. And that is not supposed to be the reason. You should change a constitution right away. So those other initiatives failed. And if you push that today, it will also fail, I think.
Bakit kasi? Sorry. Bakit kasi they always equate the push for federalism with term extension?
I think it's only the House version. Because the federalism proposal by the Puno Committee,
Justice Puno, yes.
That's the CONCOM, it does not include extension of terms. And in fact, the President himself, whenever he speaks on the topic, does not mention that as a requirement or as a feature. There are, of course, proposals to lengthen the terms.
Yes.
Because there is, I think, a universal conclusion that 3 years is not enough.
Yes.
But that's different from extending the terms of present legislators, even beyond the elective offices or terms.
Do we still have time for this? For example, I remember when President Duterte started this project, he said that by his midterm, we will already be doing the plebiscite whether the people will accept the federalism project or not. So it's now half midterm. So do you think there's still time for this?
Well, I think there is. The last half the first half of his term was basically negotiating with allies.
Yes, yes.
And that includes, of course, the Senate. This one, I think, is based already on a new mandate, meaning this is the one that he wants to leave his legacy already. So it's not a compromise, it's a process. He will really try very hard to pass this one. And I think there is still time, in the sense that if there is the political will and Congress, meaning put its foot down, that process will be shortened. Unfortunately for me, again, the two major process, one is Constituent Assembly, the other is CONCON, have problems with time.
Okay.
And also have problems of getting the necessary votes, 2/3 and 3/4 in the Senate. There is a possibility in the referendum, because that only needs a simple majority. You ask the people
Simple
themselves.
majority for both houses of
For both
Congress.
houses, even voting separately.
And you're positive that, of course, no question about the lower house. How about the Senate now?
Well, if you have 12-0 in the last election, getting one more vote is very easy.
Okay, final question. But do you think, do we really, at this point in our history, do you really think we need to shift to federalism?
Well, we have said that already 30 years ago. That and even constitutional commission members, delegates then, were, and it's in the Constitution that 5 years after the 1987 Constitution has passed, there will be a review.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Until now, it didn't happen.
So from there to now, you're still positive that this will actually push through?
I think we should do it. I mean, forget the personalities, forget the political side of it. The Constitution is not really that perfect. A lot has changed already. We don't have internet, we don't have cell phones. There's globalization and so on. Even for that, you know that you need to review the Constitution.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Casipli. Thank you very much for gracing the show. Catch the full length of this interview in ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition. In the meantime, I'm Kaloy Tabunda, and I'm one with 25. Back to you, Maricar.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco, and I am one with 25.